Good afternoon, we are Camila, Silvia, and Miranda, and we're going to be talking about Bavaria's monopoly. Here we have a table of contents so that you can have a better idea of the topics we'll be discussing. First of all, Bavaria is a brewery company. It was created by a German immigrant in Colombia. His name was Leo Kopp. It was in 1889. It concentrates in the fabrication of non-craft beer, and it has been a monopoly since 1975. Additionally, in the year 2005, Bavaria was acquired by SAP-Miller, which is a subsidiary of the global leader in beer fabrication, AB InBev. The objective of this study is to analyze the Colombian beer sector in order to be able to give an objective advice to a client who is considering to enter this market. Our secondary objectives is to understand the question, how has Bavaria created value, why does Colombia support Bavaria, and finally, is there a chance Bavaria stops being a monopoly in the near future? Now, the market we're going to be talking about, as we already mentioned, is a natural monopoly. This natural monopoly holds 1% of the Colombian GDP, and here's the graph of it showing the consumer surplus and the profit. However, this is going to be explained later on when we talk about the supply and the industry.
Okay, now we're going to be talking about Bavaria's product. It has mainly 4 divisions, which we're going to explain. These divisions are the Global, the Premium, the Core, and the Maltas. So let's take a look at them.
First of all, we have the globals, which are composed by Budweiser, Corona, and Stella Artois. Its six-pack is around $6. And on the other hand, we have the premium, which are Club Colombia, Reds, and BBC, which stands for Bogotá Beer Company, and the six-pack is around $4. Furthermore, there's the core division. The six-pack is around $3.5, and it's the largest division, as you can see. It's the most popular one. This is going to be explained later on. But from here, we just want to highlight that the star product of the Colombian market is Cerveza Águila, which you can find in Cerveza Águila Light and Cerveza Águila Cero.
Furthermore, there's the Malta division. The Malta division has no alcohol because it was thought either for people who cannot drink alcohol or for kids, and therefore the six-pack is the cheapest. It costs $2.5.
The geographical dimension of Bavaria is all Colombia. Bavaria produces over 26 million of hectoliters each year. It has 6 operating factories of beer and 2 of Malta. And now, the competition. Continuing with the competition section, we know that Heineken is a substitute product. In the 10th of November of 2014, Heineken entered to the local market of Colombia thanks to a joint venture that occurred between Pastaban, that is a Colombian company leader in non-alcoholic beverages, and Compañía Cervecerías Unidas, that is a company from Chile that is a market leader in their own local market. Since it entered, Heineken had the objective of 15% of the total market share in their first years. So actually, Heineken nowadays has achieved 2% already of the total market share of the local market, while Bavaria before had 99 more or less of the market share, nowadays has less than 97%.
A menores de edad, el exceso de alcohol es perjudicial para la salud.
Mundial y selección están llenos de pasión. Además tienen el sabor que bailamos tú y yo. Salva la tienda a celebrar que en el mundial todo es una fiesta. Agranda la sala, empacan maletas porque en Brasil amamos la fiesta.
Águila, amor por nuestra selección.
Preguntaron, ¿qué tienen los colombianos para ser tan buenos ciclistas? Y viajando por Colombia con Andina, lo descubrí. La respuesta está en nuestras cordilleras, donde aprendimos que los obstáculos se pueden escalar sin importar qué tan grandes sean. En una región que nos enseñó que las ruanas son capas de héroes. En ese manjar que nos llena de energía. En los aplausos que son empujones hacia la victoria. En cada meta que dejamos atrás. La respuesta está en ellas. En él. En nosotros y en ese cóndor que llevamos todos los colombianos adentro, que nos impulsa a volar más alto. Andina, nuevo patrocinador del ciclismo colombiano.
Prohíbas el expendio de bebidas embriagantes a menores de edad. El exceso de alcohol es perjudicial para la salud.
So, as we could observe through the commercials, Heineken had a very strong entry to Colombia through the brand Andina. Some of the strategies they used was using one of the most representative singers, which is Carlos Vives, And also, as Águila was already sponsoring Colombian soccer, they decided to sponsor Colombian cycling, which is also very important, and they used representative figures such as Egan Bernal.
And now we're presenting the competition between the two companies. From Heineken we have Andina beer, and from Bavaria we have Águila. The general review is that both are lager type with 4% of alcohol. The presentation is more or less the same as I use the same colors, gold, blue, white, and yellow. But in Andina we have a more saturated type of presentation with more figures, while Águila has a more minimalistic design. The price is almost the same, as the 6-pack is $3.3 US, and the flavor notes are gold balanced beer, good body, and balanced bitterness from Andina. And from Águila we have a golden balanced beer, tasty with a soft body. And some cool ingredients are that Águila has double roll malt, corn syrup, rice, 2 hops, and sugar, while Andina has no further information about their cool ingredients.
Bavaria SA is a natural monopoly created by its large barriers to entry in the market. A natural monopoly arises when the economies of scale persist over a large enough range of output that if one company is able to cover all the supply in a market, then it makes it difficult for other companies to join the market without facing cost disadvantages. This is what happens with Bavaria in Colombia, that Bavaria possesses the 95% of the market shares in the beer industry. The beer giant produces beers for every possible market in Colombia, and the enormous economies of scale that are created by controlling a whole market constitute an enormous barrier to entry in the market. It not only produces normal goods, but also it produces inferior goods. This allows the company to benefit from the substitution effect that happens when in an economic crisis the consumer switches its premium product for another products that are cheaper or of lower quality. Bavaria develops sustainable development, social and cultural programs that create a barrier to entry in the beer market. This is called a marketing barrier. Some of these programs that constitute this marketing barrier are the responsible sourcing of coal, a recycle partnership that Bavaria is doing with Carrefour, and a program to strengthen the culture of ethics in companies providing services to Bavaria. For last, mergers and acquisitions are another way that Bavaria has to eliminate competition. However, it hasn't been able to do it with Heineken, which won't stop the company from being a monopoly, but is taking some of its market shares. Here we have a table that shows the market share for beer in Colombia. And it does not only show us that, but it also shows us the concentration index. But Bavaria has the 95% of the shares in the beer country. And thanks to this information, we can conclude that Bavaria is a monopoly and that only one large firm composes the beer market in Colombia right now. Although we can also appreciate in the table that the share that Bavaria has is decreasing with the years, meaning that the monopoly is starting to lose power to other small companies in the market.
Now, in order to cover the demand for the product, we're going to be talking about the consumers. So first of all, it is important to highlight that the per capita consumption of beer in Colombia is of 45 liters a year. Now, regarding the global, This is usually consumed in big cities by higher social classes as it is a symbol of prestige. Regarding the premium, this is more of the middle class. It is used in social events. It's for restaurant consumption, and especially the red one, it was made for women, and there's a whole campaign behind of it. It's a softer taste. Now, regarding the Maltas, this, as I said previously, it's made for kids. They usually take it in the school lunchbox. However, it's made for low-income families, so it's more common to find them consuming it than someone from a higher social class. And finally, the core is used in all social events. It's mainly consumed by the low-income families as well. However, in big events like barbecues, it is common that different people give it. And finally, it's very common to consume it in corner shops right after work in the rural areas of the country. Now, another important aspect is that Bavaria bought a lot of local beer companies that were established before. So this is why, depending on the region, there's a specific beer that people drink the most. So, in the Caribbean coast, costeña or costeñita, which is actually the name that you give to someone who is from the coast. In the Amazon, it's cola y pola. In Valle del Cauca, it's Poker, and in Cundinamarca, as we said before, the star product, Águila. Regarding about how Bavaria shapes consumer preference, so first of all, there's advertising. We already saw a video, Miranda explained. However, this is an example of a specific brand. It's Poker, and what Poker does, their slang is el amigo que une a los amigos, and basically it uses a lot of Colombian slang. So for example, vaca pa las polas, that's mainly saying everyone needs to contribute in order to be able to buy the product. And parce, yo estoy bien, parce would be the same as tío in Spain. So by saying this, it's cultural appropriation and it creates a Colombian sense of identity. Moreover, there's a campaign in order for kids under the age of 18 not to start consuming alcohol, and it shows their commitment not to sell them unless they're overage. Moreover, there's different campaigns regarding social responsibility, so there's a scholarship for students, and they also help mothers who sustain the families in order to get a job in the company. Finally, there's the sustainability campaign. As they promise to use recycled materials, they decrease their water consumption, and they use a special type of fridge, among others. Regarding the external factor analysis, here we have a table with the prices that influence demand. So first of all, we have complementary goods such as potato chips, meat, and lemon. And on the other side, we have some substitute goods. So for example, aguardiente, which is a substitute for the core division. This is a sugar cane drink, which is typical of the country. We have wine, which is a substitute for the global and the premium brands. And finally, we have fruit juice, which would be a substitute for maltas. So as you can see, for example, fruit juice is way cheaper than the maltas, it's only $1. However, wine is way more expensive than beer. Additionally, taxes would influence demand, as in Colombia, the tax for alcohol is 15%. This is not really an issue, as alcohol is an inelastic good, therefore, consumer burden is going to be higher than producer burden. This can be observed in the graph in the left, and as you can see, we have a brief explanation portrayed in our slide. Finally, we would like to deliver our final conclusions. So regarding our main objective, we do not recommend you entering the Colombian market because Bavaria holds over 95% of the market share and they have created a strong sense of identity in the Colombian society. Moreover, there are different barriers to entry, which Sylvia already explained. However, I would like to highlight the mergers and the economies of scale. Moreover, Bavaria has all of the fabrication area covered, so there's really no new space in which you could invest. And finally, Bavaria would probably try to buy your company as it has done before with the local companies. Regarding our secondary objectives, Bavaria has created value by understanding the Colombian culture and developing different social campaigns in order to help low-income families. Secondly, Colombia feels represented by the products of Bavaria, which is the reason why they lean towards buying them. The perfect example for this is when we portray the map and we showed how each region has a specific product. So this represents not only Colombian identity, but also regional identity. And finally, Bavaria won't stop being a monopoly in the near future. However, as Heineken keeps growing inside the country, it is losing some of its market share and power. Thank you for your attention.